Yo, what's going on everyone? In today's video, I will be teaching you the best plus fastest way to complete the Cayo Perico heist in GTA 5 Online from start to finish as a solo player. Once you learn this strategy, you will be finishing the heist in under 1 hour each time and also beating the elite challenge to earn yourself over $1.3 million every single time. So with that being said, if you go on to enjoy this video, please don't forget to drop a like on it for me. But now let's get into this amazing Cayo Perico guide. Okay, so to get things started, the first thing you want to do is open up the interaction menu, go down to where it says preferences, and make sure your spawn location is set to the Kosatka. Once it is, enter inside and then go up to the heist planning board to click right on the D-pad to pay the $100,000 setup cost. From there, the first thing we need to do is the gather intel mission, which this mission is very easy. All you'll first have to do is sit in the driver's seat of the Kosatka and then fast travel to wherever your location is that you need to go to. Once you fast traveled over there, you then want to stand up and then get inside of your Sparrow to fly over to where the location is at, and then you want to use the Sparrow missiles to shoot all of the enemies around the airplane, but also be very careful that you don't explode the airplane. From there, simply get inside and then we need to fly this all the way over to the Cayo Perico island. Once on the island, the first thing you want to do is scope out this airstrip area, which is only 2 buildings, this one and this other one, for secondary target loot. The only loot we are looking for is the coke piles, since those are worth the most amount of money. In this case, when I scoped out the airstrip, I was only able to find 1 stack of the coke. But the best case scenario is if you find 2 piles, because that is what we want. We want 2 piles of the coke that we can scope out to then steal during the finale. But take a look here, I was only able to find 1 pile over here at the airstrip, but that is completely fine. If you only found 1 pile, then I would recommend scoping out this next area over here at the North Dock for more piles just in case. But if you were lucky enough to find 2 stacks of the coke over here at the airstrip, then don't even worry about this next part. You don't need to scope out the North Dock. But since I only found 1 over there at the airstrip, I had to scope out the North Dock, but once I did scope it out, I didn't even get any other piles of coke over here. Which this is usually really bad, but don't worry, you still have one more chance to get really good secondary target loot over inside of the office inside the main compound, because inside that office could possibly be 1 or 2 paintings, which is the second best secondary target loot to steal. You'll be able to see these paintings though once we get over to the communications towers, so start following where I'm going over this part of the mountain, and once over, start driving exactly where I'm going past all of these guards and security cameras, making sure you don't get caught. Then once you successfully made it over to the communications tower, we need to scope out the entire tower from bottom to top for the signal box. Once you find the signal box, you then need to hack into it. After you successfully hacked into it, you want to open up the phone, go over to the Sightseer app, and here you'll have access to all of the security camera feeds inside the main compound. Which out of all of these security cameras, we only care about 2. First of all, the camera inside the basement to see what our primary target is, which in this case, I got the best one, which is the pink diamond. And then we also want to scope out the office cameras because, as I said, sometimes inside this office will be a painting that we are able to steal. As you could see, I got a painting in this case. The painting could either be on this side or also the other side on the office camera too. You could either get 1 or 2 paintings. If you get 2, consider yourself very lucky. But that is honestly really rare. Anyway, once you scoped out the office cameras, we can then see what we will be stealing during the finale. The best case scenario is if you got 2 piles of coke, we could just steal those 2 piles and fill up the entire bag. The second best case scenario is if you got 1 pile of coke and 1 painting, because that will fill up the bag that way as well. But the worst case scenario is if you got only 1 pile of coke and no paintings, because in that case, you would have to fill up half of your bag with the coke and then the rest of it with random other secondary target loot such as cash or weed. Which is not what you want, since those secondary target loots are worth the least amount of money. The highest paying ones are the coke and also paintings. Anyway, once you finish doing the gather intel mission, we are now ready to do the first prep, which is the approach vehicles prep, and in this case, I would recommend doing the boat longfin prep since this is the best one to use for the approach vehicle. This prep mission is really easy. All you'll have to do is go over to a random police station, but before you go over there, you want to steal a truck that is going to be at a truck depot. This is of course if you don't own a Phantom Wedge, which in this case I'm on my PlayStation 5 account, which is relatively new, so I will be needing to steal the semi-truck. It's usually really simple. You just need to take out this one security guard and then get inside the truck to drive it over to the police station. As I said though, if you own a phantom wedge, you could just go over to the police station, call out the phantom wedge over here, get inside of it, and then do what I'm doing right now, which is simply backing up your truck into the police station to hook it up against the long fin. And once you have it hooked, you then want to drive it out of the police station, making sure that entire time you are spamming your snacks, that way you don't lose too much health. From there, you want to open up the pause menu and mark this exact location because this is the drop-off location that we need to go over to. And it's the same one every time, so eventually you should be able to memorize where the location is and not even need to mark it. But once over there, you want to drive inside of this gate and park the truck right here. Once you parked it, we still have cops, so you need to lose them. The fastest way to do this is hopping out of the truck, going over here, and then exploding yourself. Then once you spawn back in, you'll of course have no cops, so go back over to where the truck is parked at and then get inside. Once inside the truck, we are already here at the drop-off, so you'll now complete the entire mission just like so. Once you complete this first mission, I would recommend loading it to a new invite-only session to spawn inside your Kosatka way faster, of course making sure your spawn location is set to the Kosatka first. Once back inside the Kosatka, we can now start the next prep missions, which are going to be the equipment prep missions, which the first one we will be doing is called the plasma cutter prep. This mission is so easy. All you are doing is going over to a safe house, and once inside, you want to open up your phone immediately to snap a picture of the room and send it to Pavel. From there, exit the building because once you exit, you'll be given a new location to go steal the plasma cutter, which most of the time will be over in the Rockford Hills area. Once over there, you want to use the homing missiles on your Sparrow to take out all of the enemies inside this alley, because once you take all of them out, you then want to get out of your helicopter, then go over here to pick up the plasma cutter. Once you pick up the plasma cutter, there will be some enemies starting to spawn in, so quickly run back to your Sparrow to get inside and head back over to your Kosatka. Also, during this part, if your Kosatka is nowhere near you, like me, I would recommend calling it back in during any one of these missions that we are completing, because it is an easy way to get it to spawn right next to you whenever you need to deliver anything during these preps. Anyway though, like I said, once you delivered this plasma cutter inside the Kosatka, we have now finished this plasma cutter prep mission. Okay, but now getting into the second equipment prep mission, this one is called the fingerprint cloner, which is a really easy mission that has to go over to a warehouse, and once inside, you immediately want to start shooting all of the enemies in here. Once you took them all out, you want to locate this laptop at the very end of this room and click right D-pad to hack it. Once you hack the laptop, which is a really simple hack, you then want to exit this room. Because once you exit the room, it'll give you a whole new archive location to go over to, and once over there and inside that room, you next need to find the fingerprint cloner inside here. Which most of the time it is at the very end on top of this desk where all of these computers are. Once you got it, we can now exit the archive, get back inside the Sparrow, and deliver this back over to the Kosatka, which once we do, we are now completely done doing the second equipment prep mission. For the very last equipment prep mission, this one is called Cutting Torch, which is a really easy mission that has you go over to a random construction site, and once over there, you first want to locate where the hard hat is. Because once we put on this hard hat, we will then be able to scope out the entire construction site looking through all of the toolboxes without alerting any of the guards. So once you scoped out all of the toolboxes and you found the correct one with the cutting torch inside, you of course want to steal it, because once you steal it, we can now deliver this back over to the Kosatka. And once you did, just like so, we have now completed all of the equipment prep missions. All we need to do is one more prep mission. And this one is going to be the weapon loadout prep, which is going to be the weapon that we will be using during the actual finales. So you could pick whichever weapon you want to, but in my opinion, I always recommend choosing the aggressor. Once you start the weapon loadout prep mission though, if you ever get the location that says Merryweather HQ, honestly don't even do it. Just find a new session to load back into your Kosatka to launch the mission again until you get one of the other locations to one of these buildings. Because these are the easiest locations to steal the weapon at. Anyway, once over here at that building, whichever one you got, you want to land on the roof of it and enter through the roof. Once inside this office, we can now start taking out all of the enemies in here, which there only will be around 6 to 7 of these guards we need to take out, and once we take all of them out, we can then locate the gun locker, which is just right here behind the desk, but once you try to open it, it'll be locked. To unlock it, we need to go up to this laptop, click right on the D-pad, and perform a very simple hack, which is finding a combination of numbers. Once you found those numbers and successfully hacked the laptop, you will see the gun locker can now open, so go up to it, click right on the D-pad, and it will open. Once it opens, you want to steal the weapons inside. From here, we can now exit the building, but make sure once you exit that you exit through the roof, because of course that is where we parked our helicopter, and once inside the Sparrow, we can now fly back over to the Kosatka to deliver these weapons. Once you did deliver them back over to the Kosatka, just like that, we have now completed all of the prep missions for the Cayo Perico heist, and we are now ready to do the finale. As you'll see, once you go back over to the heist planning board and click right on the D-pad, it will tell you that all of the mandatory prep work has now been complete. So accept this, and we are now ready to start the finale. So click on where it says start, go ahead and purchase armor if you want to, then start the heist. Once you start it, here is the exact settings you want to put. So first, for the approach vehicle, you want to select the long fin. After that, go down to where it says infiltration point, and you want to select where your secondary target loot was best at, which for me is the main dock. But if your secondary target loot was better at the north dock, then you of course want to select that. After that, go down to where it says compound entry point and then select the drainage tunnel. Then go down to where it says escape point and set it to whatever you want to. After, go down to where it says time of day, set it to daytime, and lastly go down to where it says weapon loadout and make sure you have suppressors on your weapon. From there, we are ready to start the heist, and once in the heist, we of course are going to be doing this entire thing solo, just like we have been doing for the setups. Alright, so getting started with this finale heist, the first thing we need to do is go over to loot our secondary target loot, which like I showed you during my gather intel mission, I only have one pile of coke that I need to steal. Since of course I got lucky and I have one painting over inside of the office, so I don't really need to loot too much over on this island. Anyway though, wherever your piles of coke were located at, you want to then drive your longfin boat over there and dock it just like I do, making sure your boat is facing backwards. That way once we leave, it is very easy. From there, hop outside of your boat and start heading towards wherever your loot was best at, which for me was inside this hangar. And for this hangar, there is literally no guards guarding it except one, and you don't even need to take him out, but in this case, I just took him out because why not? Anyway, once in your area, wherever that was, where your secondary target loot was best at, you want to be very careful, that way no guards spot you or get alerted. In this case, mine is inside this hangar, so it's very simple. I just had that one guard at the very front that I already took out. But anyway, once I was inside here, I then had to use this forklift to then go up to this box and pick it up. After that, I drove it up against this fence because once it is against the fence, I am now able to climb on top of this box and get to this top area where my secondary target loot is located. As you could see, here's my one pile of coke that I got. Anyway, once you did loot all of your piles of coke, whether that was one or two, we can now make our way out of here and head back over to where we parked our longfin boat. I know my location was a very easy one where I really can't get caught whatsoever, but if yours was a harder one, I would recommend taking your time and also making sure you learn the guards' routes. That way you can go at the perfect time when they don't see you. Anyway, once you stole all of your secondary target loot, whether that was one or two piles of coke, and you are inside the longfin, we then need to drive it all the way behind El Rubio's compound to start entering through the drainage tunnel. Which I just made it over here. Once right behind El Rubio's compound and you see where the drainage tunnel is, you want to hop out of the boat and start swimming down to where the drainage tunnel entrance is located. Once at the entrance, click right on the D-pad to begin to cut the grate open. Once you cut this metal grate open with the cutting torch, we can now start swimming through the entire drainage tunnel and then click right D-pad at the very end to enter inside the compound. Once inside El Rubio's compound, this part is definitely the easiest out of the entire finale, so don't worry. All you want to do is literally follow exactly where I'm going, running through this entire part of the compound. This route is also the best one, so don't even worry about learning other strategies since this is the most simple. Anyway, once at the bottom of these stairs, you want to wait until that guard in front of us is starting to walk away from us. Once he walks away, we can now start going right behind him up these next flights of stairs. Then at this point here, you want to lean right up against the wall and wait for this last guard to walk right past you. Once he walks all the way past you, we can now walk right here behind him up these next two flights of stairs. And from here, we are now inside of El Rubio's main office, which is the main area we need to go inside of. Once in here, we first want to go up to this safe vault and open it to steal all of the cash inside here, which could either be around $20,000 to $70,000 at the very most. After you stole that cash inside the safe, we can now steal any paintings in here if we have any, which in this case, I only have one painting. And after I got this one painting, that has now filled up my loot bag completely full. Once your loot bag is completely full and you took all of the paintings, we can now start hacking this fingerprint cloner, which is super simple. Once you successfully hack the fingerprint cloner, we can now enter inside this elevator to go downstairs to where the main vault is at, where of course our primary target is, which in this case I got the pink diamond. So just cutting torch open the gate, and once inside here we then want to go up to the main primary target, click right on the D-pad, and then use this plasma cutter to cut open this glass case. Once you cut it open, you'll now steal the pink diamond, which is worth $1.3 million. Take a look, with my completely full loot bag and also this pink diamond, my entire value that I'm going to be taking is $1.75 million. From here we can now escape the compound, which is very easy. All you have to do is follow where I'm going. You just want to go all the way down these stairs, and at this point here you want to wait for that guard in front of us right here to walk past us just like that. Once he walks past us, we can now go over this gate, up these stairs, and here is the escape points for the compound. Just go up to the yellow circle and click right on the D-pad to escape. I always like throwing a grenade at one of those guards. Don't worry, they won't get alerted or anything as long as you clicked right on the D-pad first. Anyway, once you exited the compound, we are almost done. You just need to take out around 3 more guards and then we can exit the island. First guard is right here guarding the motorcycle that we will be using. Take him out first and get on top of this motorcycle. Once you have the motorcycle, follow where I'm going to where this helicopter is. Because near this helicopter will be one more guard that we want to take out with a simple headshot. Once you take him out, there's only one more guard that we need to take out on this other road right here driving this Winky. So just go right behind him and take him out with a simple headshot just like so. We are now completely done taking out all of the guards on this island. We can now escape the island. Which to do this, it is very simple. Just drive exactly where I'm going all the way over here through these parts of the bush and off of this cliff. Once off the cliff and in the ocean, you want to swim all the way out until you see a cutscene. I like to swim right here straight forward because this is when you know you are going to finish the heist immediately, once you swim over this pile of whale bones. Because take a look, once you swim over those whale bones, the minimap will disappear and you'll be put through the cutscene, which now we are able to skip this cutscene. You can only skip it if you have completed the Cayo Perico heist more than one time though. Anyway, take a look. Here's how much money I got paid for passing the heist. My potential take was 5.1 million. My actual take was 1.53 million. And I of course got the elite challenge. Which the elite challenge is to complete it in under 15 minutes. I did that. I had 0 hacks failed as well. And also you have to have full loot bags. If you had all 3 of those, that completes the elite challenge to get you an extra $50,000. So I walked away with $1.58 million. And also on top of that, a total of 2,200 RP, not including the RP that I got during the prep missions. Anyway, that is now going to be the end of today's video. This is my updated guide on how to complete the Cayo Perico heist entirely, including all the setups as a solo player, the best and fastest way possible in 2026. So I hope this video went on to help you out. If it did and you still haven't already, please do me a favor in return by dropping a like on the video. And of course, if you aren't, make sure you also hit that subscribe button with notifications turned on. That way you never miss out on a future GTA 5 Online video just like this one from me. But with all of that being said, until next time, I will see you all in my very next video. Peace.